Hi, Ladies Live, Cairo from Malaysia. Welcome to our show tonight. We have a special guest tonight from Switzerland. We have Dr. Lewrick. Give a big hand, Dr. Lewrick. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Lewrick. How are you?
Excellent. I'm fine. I'm sitting here in Zurich, Switzerland. We're
Yeah.
also affected by the lockdown, and of course, everyone is in home office. Here it's now 2 p.m., so I just came back from my home office lunch, and happy to discuss today a couple of topics about COVID-19 and design thinking.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. So you have a home lockdown lunch. Yeah? That's great.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That was me and myself.
So maybe just to get things going, right? How is it like the lockdown or the in COVID in where you stay in Zurich?
In Zurich, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Switzerland, is a quite small country, in comparison to all the other European countries. But we were heavily affected because we have the border to France, we have the border to Italy, we have the border to Germany, and a lot of transit were going through Switzerland, affected, of course, by COVID-19. So we have a high rate of people suffering under COVID-19. Hospitals are still okay. And for the last 3 weeks, we are in our lockdown, and so all the social life is now just on the basics. You're allowed to go shopping, you're allowed to meet your relatives and your close friends, but all the public events are cancelled, of course.
Ah, I see. Okay, all right. So you basically cook on your own, or you have you do delivery or something?
Yeah, of course, sometimes we meet like for a walk with friends, this is possible. And of course, a lot of Skype calls. So you have like the full day of Zoom meetings. And late at night, you have like a WhatsApp call. So it's like kind of the way to communicate with the world. And it's also quite nice. I think a lot of people reaching out you have not talked to for a long time.
Right.
So I met now over Facebook friends again, over WhatsApp. We had like WhatsApp groups with friends when I was living in Singapore a couple of years ago. So it's quite nice to reconnect and to get an update what people are doing, and a lot of planning about visiting friends again and seeing when everything is over. So that's quite nice.
Right. Yeah, I remember we first met in KL last year in Shangri-La Hotel. So I have a picture last year. Yeah, that was me and your book. That was good. It was from your Singapore conference. You jumped to KL and we connect and we met straight away. That was good.
Yeah, it was very successful. This was a conference about innovation in the telco space.
Yeah.
And I was talking at this time about business ecosystem design.
Right.
Probably one of the next things coming along. Maybe you have also some time to talk about these things later, because like the combination of system thinking and design thinking is coming quite relevant, especially like on like digital platforms and ecosystems. And so the design thinking mindset helps always as a starting point, because all these ecosystems are really customer focused.
Right. That's great. No, I remember our conversation about the business ecosystem. I think that's really good. Now come back to the topic, Doctor. So how design thinking can be useful in COVID-19 situation? Because we know that the situation normally, design thinking is about innovation, something fun, but now we have a crisis, global crisis. Please, your thoughts.
Well, design thinking is not always about fun, because I think there's a lot of things, because these are really complex problems. And looking on a different kind of perspective into the problem always helps. So like a lot of techniques from design thinking, like reframing, having a lot of WH questions like why, how, what, etc., helps to identify what is really the problem. And then, of course, we can start to use all these brainstorming techniques to find new solutions. And especially now in this situation, we have to find workarounds, for example. So people stuck at home, they don't know how to collaborate with their colleagues. So we can use like techniques related to benchmarking, what are other industries are doing, what does, like, for example, large organizations do to educate a lot of people with webinars or like recording videos about content. So we can use all these things existing already and applying them to our own situation and problem. And this really helps them to find solutions also in COVID-19. And on the other hand, sometimes it's also quite nice to have like a different conversation with people, about how they feel, how they interact with each other. So the way how we collaborate, might be also kind of different, and we're asking different questions and also have to apply kind of different leadership style. So all these things together, gives a lot of opportunity to have also experiments, how it might work in the virtual space. And this is all design thinking, right? We're looking into problems, we're looking into new ideas, we experiment for actual problem existing in the space.
Yeah, good. I like that explanation. Just to recap a little bit, you mentioned about reframing technique, the 5 Ws, what, why. Yeah, that's some of the technique. And I like the part you mentioned about the benchmarking technique, where you try to benchmark how others are doing in other industry or other companies, right? Now, I want to build more on the benchmarking, right? So see, there are some countries, even in Malaysia, we have some shortage of the mask, for example,
Exactly.
the protective equipment, PPE, for example, right? And I see on Facebook there are a lot of people going into 3D printing, quickly prototype and produce. Can you comment on that? It's very fast, So maybe can you comment, build on that a little bit, Doctor?
I really like that people are pragmatic on these things, finding like solution to do and apply 3D printing for masks, and sharing like also experience how to build these masks. I think it's quite important. But I think more important is like how we can benchmark and learn from other countries around the globe, and especially like coming back to Europe, it feels like that every government in Europe is reinventing the wheel, And I mentioned before I was living in Singapore, and it was actually at the time SARS was all around us, and they had really good actions and measures to put everything under control, And I'm wondering a little bit that all the states here in Europe, why is it not applying a little bit out of the learnings from other governments, how to make it a little bit better. And when I look to the US or the England at the moment,
Right.
they are really starting from scratch, reinventing the wheel, and a little bit of benchmark, learning from each other, see what works in other countries helps, to be quicker with your solutions. And one of the things in design thinking is, copy and paste is allowed, right? That's what we do all the time. We look what other groups do, we learn from other challenges, and we're applying like ideas others have created into our own problem space and our own solution space. And I really can encourage everyone, including governments, to look into the best practices, to benchmark what others do, and coming back with like really good actions and measures for solving this crisis.
Yeah, good. I like the part where you mentioned some of the case studies from other government. Can you share a little bit more, something specific that you see really successful or going to a positive section in time of COVID-19, maybe from other countries in Europe?
So actually what we have at the moment with my employer, we have a collaboration with Salesforce, and there's like a COVID 360. This is kind of an application for like hospitals and the healthcare sector to track like cases that had like patient information, and also how the journey from like initial contact with people to like the disease and recovery looks like. And these tools are quite powerful, to track at least the current situation, and also to help to find a little bit kind of an transparent situation for all of us, knowing really how many people are infected, And this is something this could be easily implemented everywhere. But then, of course, we have regulations and we have a lot of other things to solve. And sometimes, we also have to find quicker solution to apply to new situation with our regulations, because we can be really innovative. But in the end of the day, if we can't have the data at the right place, we can't look into patient data, we can't look into like tracking data from mobile devices, this gives not really the freedom to create something effective. So it's both, it's an innovative part, but it's also on the part of the regulator, to be open and to apply to these things.
Right. Great. You mean that currently that those kind of uh, solutions, like tracking passions, use of the journey map, those are some of the cases. How about something that you see radical? Is there anything that you want to share with us? Something wild?
I think I think what's really radical is, every single person, how we adapt, I mean, personal change is quite important in this situation, and I see like people that never have worked in any home office situation, that never used any kind of online meeting collaboration tools, and from one to the next day they're adapting totally to this new situation, and they're doing very well, they're learning, they look into YouTube videos how it works, they're creative about creating new warm-ups in sessions, and all these things. And the same comes to me, I'm usually running design thinking session in the physical space.
Yeah.
And now I have to do like 1 to 5 days design thinking sessions with like 20, 40 participants in the virtual space. So you can't do like exercises like building something as a warm up. You have to find like ways to interact in the virtual space, and this makes it kind of unique, and it's also forced myself, to find new solutions. And I'm experimenting with a lot of things, breakout sessions over Zoom, looking into mural, to do like whiteboard and design thinking, brainstorming sessions. And when it comes to like building physical prototypes, this is probably the hardest part in any virtual environment. If you have to build something, of course you can build something digital and collaborate, but if you like to build a physical product, in the virtual space, this is really a challenge at the moment, and then maybe you also have to find solution to do so if this goes for a longer time.
Right. I thanks for bringing that topic up. So how would you prototype? I mean, what do you use maybe with your engagement to prototype in a virtual environment?
Yeah, this is basically, well, what I mentioned before, that's kind of hard to do. So what we use, people sketch something, for example, on the sharing later on the whiteboard sessions. Sometimes we say people should come together like in smaller groups building something. So you're still allowed to meet like with 2, maximum 3 people. So it's still possible. And then it's always good to make a picture of things and share it again with your community online.
Right.
And this helps at least, to look into things. When it comes to like interacting with customers, you can do the same thing. You can do like online A/B testings to find out about single function experiences. Of course, you can have like also meetings, online meetings, to show people something. Of course, a little bit different than from really interacting with them, but at least you get a feeling because, with video conference, you can see how people act, how they look, how they answer, also get all the feelings because, you can see from their eyes, and from their gestures, how really they like the solution or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in your understanding, right, I just want to get, because in design thinking, I want to sidetrack a little bit. In design thinking, there are many versions of so-called definition, right? So for you, Michael, what is the design thinking definition for you personally?
So for me, design thinking was always a mindset, So it's not really about, because a lot of people think it's about post-its, and design thinking is not about post-its. And when people come to me, design thinking, you use a lot of post-its, and it's fun exercise and coming together. I'm always saying, I invite you, and we have like 2 weeks design thinking without any post-it. And this is something, I'm really encouraged to say, design thinking is a mindset, and the mindset has different kind of ways how we collaborate, how we interact, how we engage with problems, and how we actually using like the design thinking process as a reference where we're standing at the process while we're doing so. And this is, I think, is quite important, That's really kind of how we look into the problem, how we work together, how we build up on ideas of others, how we have like this kind of positive atmosphere in the room, to make something happen. And this is my definition of it, and when I look into how broad design thinking can be, this was actually what I mentioned before, coming now along and looking into ecosystem design, there's of course in the beginning a customer need, you're building your MVP, and later on you design a whole ecosystem to bring it to the market, and this is a combination of design thinking and system thinking, and this is something we should really open up for, saying, it's not just design thinking, it's also about looking into systems, especially like into complex systems when it comes to ecosystems. And this makes it kind of very unique. You're applying different kind of mindsets, different kind of thinking behaviors, and you apply the right thinking at the right time to solve the problem. And this is what I think it's the best definition about it.
Right.
I realized that design thinking got really a revival the last 5 to 6 years with the digital transformation. So I think the design thinking mindset was really kind of the way to look into the customer needs, to changing customer needs, and also to build something really agile and radical. So all things we see at the moment about agile collaboration and Scrum and all these things. Basically, they're using kind of the design thinking mindset, using iterations, and applying these methods and tools we have there, to bring something to the market.
Right. Doctor, I like to build on the thing you mentioned about collaboration, right? So in the situation like COVID-19, you need to collaborate with a lot of people that sometimes you don't know. But most of the people, you don't know them. You don't know the supply chain. So what would be your take in this kind of situation? Because we need to save the patients, but we need to collaborate at the same time. But these people we don't know how best to approach in that kind of situation.
Well, how to approach, if you have to collaborate with like new people, it's always kind of good to learn about what's the people all about, And what I use usually in design thinking is the HBDE profile to look into like the left and right brainer of orientation, and you have like these 4 quadrants telling a little bit how people are using to have the communication styles ready to look into things and how to solve problems. So for my example is, I'm really kind of a analytic blue. Green kind of style of person, and knowing, what kind of personalities are in your teams to collaborate helps a lot, how to speak with them, and how to interact. And of course, also for the virtual design thinking sessions, for me, it's quite important to understand a little bit more also on the personal side. So sometimes, if you start new sessions, I ask them, show us in your home, show where you're sitting at the moment, or show us your your 10 last picture on your smartphone. What was the last thing you captured, as a screenshot or photo, and usually you get kind of a personal information about people because they have a picture of their cat, maybe, with the family, and then basically a little bit better about the person as well. And I think especially when we're now collaborating with new people in the virtual space, it's really important, to have also a human touch, because otherwise all of us have like this kind of virtual backgrounds in Zoom, sitting in front of big waves and big grass, and actually finally it looks more like you're talking to a robot, not a human anymore, So don't leave out this personal side, Sometimes also quite nice to have like also kind of an apéro session, kind of having a beer together, after the session, and having like a breakout session for personal chats. So everything you can learn, on the personal side of people helps really for interacting and knowing your team better.
Right. So that's is one way to get to know your team, where you have, I like the tools like have a personal chat, have a pep talk, understand their profile, understand their background, right? So that's one way how you can work in the team. And I think another way is to add to that is to have a lower expectation. I think it's also good to have a balanced view, because in times of crisis, for example, we have to lower our expectation to people, because if we have too high expectation, then we become frustrated if it's not met. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're totally right. A lot of us, have to deal with a totally new situations. Kids are at home. We together with our families entire day, and I think this is like what I usually say is kind of a holistic view on our work-life integration. You know, you can't separate work from your personal life at the moment because everything's interconnected. So if you have like a lot of stress with your kids from homeschooling, if you're stressed out with your wife, you know, because you're really close together now and you have issues to solve, this will affect your work style as well, you know. And so I think you have to be really balanced with everything, and you should really start working on these things. And what I introduced last year here in the German-speaking part is Design Your Future. This is kind of applying design thinking for your personal life. And what I use like design thinking techniques and strategies for your personal life to really see how you can change what you do at the moment. And this could be like something related to your family, something related to your job situation, related to your health, you know, and many other things. So starting and using like the design thinking mindset to reframe, you know, your current situation, to start working with your family members on solving the problem, you know, to create like together new solutions also helps in this situation at the moment. It's not just business, you know, it's related to everything we do every day, and we should really look into like a holistic way into the whole situation we have at the moment.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And I think I like the fact that you mentioned about your upcoming project, yeah, which is design thinking for personal life. Can you share us a little bit more about that one?
Exactly, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, this was coincidence that I was working on this topic. I got a request from my publishing house here in Switzerland, and they were saying, you know, Michael, we have like a kind of series of notebooks, you know, with a little bit of text and a lot of empty pages, you know, and we like to bring it out last year for Christmas, and you know, it would be nice, you know, if you have like 20 pages about design thinking, and then it's kind of a notebook for business people. And then I was going back and saying, you know, actually it's not appropriate to just make another book with a little bit about design thinking for business people. It should be design thinking for your personal life. So I started to writing like 20 pages, you know, I handed it into the publishing house, and they came back and saying, Michael, that's great content, let's make a book out of it. So that's sometimes how it happens, and that, oh, well, you know, could be okay, but I don't have time. And then I really started, you know, working for 9 months on this book project, and now it's really kind of a workbook, you know, having kind of design thinking methodology, looking into like the positive side of thinking, and looking also like into the systemic view about human beings and our society. And this is now really, really nice because we created also kind of online sessions for Design Your Future. And last year in the trial run, we had already like over 200 participants, and the idea was having a beta version with 15 participants. So this is quite nice, you know, and this technique, you know, also helps you to learn about the design thinking methods, and later on to applying them into your team and into your organization, you know. So kind of you're using it for your personal change, you're applying it for your team, and you're changing the entire organization bottom up with a new mindset. And at the moment, I have a lot of large organizations. They're actually asking, you know, to train like individual people in the organization with Design Your Future, that they apply the mindset, that we can really transform the companies. And this is a different way than from the old way, where we did like big change programs, top-down driven, you know, trying to change the behavior and the mindset of people. Now it's more like, you know, you're going back to your team and you're applying what you have learned for your personal life. And actually, I have that's the German version, you know, that's from the new book.
Wow,
and this one that will be also in English, called Design Thinking Life Playbook. In Germany, it's a different title, but the English one is Design Thinking Life Playbook. And when you look inside, you know, there's like kind of this idea of having this really total view on how things come together, related. So the mobile is kind of the way of looking into how everything's interlinked, you know.
Right. Oh,
and it's the design thinking process, you know. It's really quite nice.
Right. Yeah, one thing I really like about your book, one is the content is really nice, it's really compact, and I like the graphic images. It's just so lovely. It's colorful. It's really have, I can see a lot of effort, a lot of love being put in that kind of graphic.
Thank you for mentioning this. And this was actually when we started to create the first book, the design thinking playbook. This was kind of a inner fight with myself, coming from the academic side of research, publishing a lot of papers about design research, and having like strict academic writing,
Yeah.
transformed the content, from state-of-the-art research and something everyone understands, with easy to understand visualizations and text, This was basically the biggest challenge for me, to producing this book. And for all the books now, we design every page, So every double page is always a relation between visualization and written content, And this makes the experience quite good. Those kind of, you really get what's behind. And for all the other books, we applied the same methodology.
Yeah. So I would like you to share also about your book, your new book launching, the Design Thinking Toolbook, right?
Yeah,
So,
design toolbox, yes.
Toolbox. All right. Share with us a little bit.
Yeah, this is actually, we got, we went out, publishing the design thinking playbook. It's now translated in 34 languages, I'm waiting actually for something, in Malay, to bring something to the market as well. Right. So far, no publisher, but I know that we got publisher in Indonesia, we got Thailand, we got, of course, China, we got Korea, got a lot of countries already, in Asia. So hopefully it's coming along and in your local language as well. Yeah. And this was very successful, but it was really designed and created for like people already knowing design thinking. And with the new design thinking toolbox, we really have realized there's a need in the market for like describing every design thinking tool. And now in the toolbox, we have like 4 pages, one expert out of the design thinking community, and we were collaborating with 100 experts globally. It's basically describing one tool on 4 pages. And the best thing is there's like a link, to a web page, and you can download the templates. Okay. So with the templates, basically, you can print them on a 0 or a 1, and then basically hang them in the space, and you're ready to do your design thinking sessions. And with 50 templates, you're probably equipped for like 14 weeks design thinking. Or you just pick a couple of tools to do like a session within 1 week. So what we did as well, we created like a matrix, what kinds of tools you should use in 3 days, what kind of tools you should regularly use on a 5-day design challenge. So it's much easier then to facilitate, and especially for people who are doing the first time design thinking, that I get a little more guidance about how to use these tools in a proper way. Yeah. And still the flexibility, because we know in design thinking, you don't have like a fixed agenda. You're coming along with your group, you're talking about the design challenge, you're reaching out to your potential customers and users, and then you decide really on the way, what are the appropriate tools. But sometimes it's quite good to have a little bit structure and say, okay, we're going into like a persona concept, what are really the critical questions we have to ask, how we can create like all the useful information in a good way, how we create like a point of view with the right way of phrasing it. So these templates really help, to facilitate even large groups. So here in Switzerland, I had groups with 100 participants in design thinking classes, splitting up in like whatever 30 to 40 groups, and then it's quite hard to facilitate. And with the templates, they have like a small description what to do, they have the fields how to fill them, and then basically it's much easier also to facilitate larger group within design thinking. And now with COVID-19, everything is a digital space. So we use these templates within Microsoft Teams, we use them in Mural, Mira, all these collaboration tools, because these templates are already digital, right? So you can upload them and stick your digital post-its on top. And this makes it, for me, actually very easy at the moment to collaborate in the digital space.
Yeah, good. I really like your explanation about your book and the tools. They definitely can be very useful. However, for businesses, right, now they are in the situation of COVID-19, recession of move, business is being challenged. how can they adopt or use a bit of design thinking for them to come up with some solutions in current situation?
I think it's now really the right time to look into the everything happening in the post crisis, because a lot of customer needs will change. People are more likely now to shop online, they order food online, they go to online classes for education, they collaborate over all these virtual tools at the moment. So the behavior, will change a lot. And we will realize that afterwards we have to rethink about all the personas and all the customer needs we had identified in the past, because there will not be the same needs anymore. So for companies, quite important to see how the behavior is changing, how the customer needs are changing, and then basically also adapt your products and services. And maybe, you're coming up with totally new business opportunities out of the crisis, And I have, for example, I have one large customer here in Switzerland. They have like a big restaurant chain, and they deliver like food to all the canteens at large organizations, like large companies. And they have zero business because, everything's on the physical space. Now they started really to look into how they can have like partners, to deliver food, partners to order online food, how they use all these kitchens they have in different canteens, in the large organizations to create something new, kind of a home delivery food, organized by your company while you're in home office and all these things, And this is something I really see as a market opportunity, that you find like new ways of interacting with your clients, and looking also into different needs. And maybe, you're starting a whole new business out of the crisis.
Right. I like the part that you mentioned about the need for digital services. In your experience, Michael, do you think this need of digital and online services is only temporary, or do you think it's going to grow further after COVID-19?
I look into a lot of companies with like roadmap for digital transformation, and usually the roadmap was from now onwards still 2 to 3 years, to get like processes automated and everything. With the crisis, somehow they managed for some processes to make them digital within 2 weeks, Before it was never happened, a lot of long discussions, but now, they're forced to get into the digital space. And I think, there's no way you go back, and all the processes you look into and digitalize at the moment, they will be digital later on. And then you can build on with end-to-end digital processes, with this automation, you can generate more data, you have more information about your customers, you can bring even customized products later on to the market, to your clients. And I think it's really a boost for all the digital offerings. And I think we see, at least for the digital way of collaborating digital products, a totally new world after COVID-19.
Right. We have a question online, Michael. Can we take that now?
Sure.
Yes. So this is from Azizi. He asks how design thinking can address and look at risk reframing.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you should not reframe risk, in my opinion, because risk is real, right? And if there's any risk, you should take it really serious. And I think it's quite good to look also on the risk side, whatever you do. And if there are problems, with security, IT security at the moment, cybersecurity, and all these things, because that's what companies are facing, They have now a lot of digital interactions, and, they have to secure that everything is still safe. And I think, if there any risk, you should solve these things as well, especially like cybersecurity. And here in the healthcare sector, people should be careful, that everything is still right within the frame to protect also like the end customer and the patients. And I think really risk, take it serious. It's part of designing a solution, bring it to the market, but don't underestimate and take it serious. I think reframing is more like for like the entire situation and looking into market opportunities, but risk should be stay as risk.
Yeah, good. I like the explanation about the situation. While we may want to design some interesting solutions, we must also protect the customers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was with one colleague online recently, we talked about food safety and hygiene, right? So now
Yes.
a lot of food delivery, for example, which is convenient for the customers, but are they hygienic or not? How can we ensure that? So these are
Yeah,
the,
well,
yeah. Can you comment
this,
about that?
this, well, I think this really something has to do with like educate people, how they should behave to, for example, washing their hands, even preparing the food, looking also into the supply chain when the food is delivered to the point where you prepare it. And this is more like kind of trust, you should be like looking into your own health and saying, I don't like to get infected by COVID-19, so I
Yeah,
like to secure everyone else as well. And if you have like people delivering for you food to your customers, I would really go into like one-to-one sessions to them and having like a checklist, that they apply all the measurements and actions, to be really on the safe side. And there's even kind of ways of delivering. For example, here in Switzerland, even the postman is putting everything in front of your front door and ringing the bell. So there's no interaction anymore with someone bringing like your parcels, So in
yeah,
the past, you came to your door, you had to sign that you received everything. And now it's more like kind of, they give you notification, your parcel has arrived and you pick it up by yourself, but there's not really kind of a physical human interaction and handing over anything. And
yeah,
these are the smaller things, and if you look into the entire kind of customer journey, from the
yeah,
preparation of the meal to delivery, and everything else, this could be really helpful, to make like a really nice process out of it with like less risks of having any kind of COVID-19 influence on it.
yeah. Good. Thanks so much. So I like the part where you mentioned about the example in Switzerland where the understanding or the definition of customer service now is the provider is showing how they want to take care of the customers, right? Using different kind of service. In other words, you don't have to really maybe shake hand of the customers or hold them, but just by putting the courier on the door and say this courier is ready, maybe with some digital notifications, the customer know, oh, my goods is ready. Yeah, I think they feel taken care of at the same time. So this will change the new journey map or the new customer journey for postal service digital era.
Well, for example, also like delivering food, for parcel services, for many other things. I mean, so I think it's kind of a new way of interacting. You don't have even the personal relationship with the postman anymore because I think in a lot of countries, there's still someone coming along, and for older people, it's also kind of a social contact, So someone really ringing your doorbell, bringing the post, this is kind of the only social interaction elderly people have, and this is also something we have to think about after the crisis, if this is not happening anymore and we keep this kind of just delivering in front of the door and don't having these kind of social moments, there's always a possibility in the market opportunity to provide other service to older people, how they have like at least some interaction with people, how they feel, that someone is like taking care about them. And it's just like kind of asking how you're doing today. This helps sometimes, to have like a good mental health. And
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of things happening afterwards and a lot of opportunities that we can look into. And we also have to reorganize a little bit our social life.
Right. Michael, I want to share with the audience out there about the templates that you gave me. Can I show them on the screen now?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
maybe you can help us run through a little bit about it. Just give me 1 sec. Right, I got it right here. Yes. So you give me about one template called problem statement.
Yeah, no, this is perfect. Actually, these are the templates out of the design thinking toolbox. You can download for free,
Yeah.
and basically later on print them and A0 or use them as a digital space. So every template gives you kind of a structure. For example, how to create a good problem statement. And as you can see, you have like a kind of W questions. At start, you're looking into the what, how, and how, etc. You can fill in these things with post-its, or collaborate online, and then basically later on, out of these kind of insights, you're creating like the problem statement. And here, of course, as well as we learn from our practical use, the first problem statement is not the one we usually use. So you can go like in iterations, having like 1, 2, 3 iterations before you have a good problem statement with your team. So these things are really designed for like working in teams, collaborate, and you have a structure of looking, for example, how to create a problem statement. And like the whole toolbox has like 50 of these templates, guiding you from the problem statement over the first way of observing the space, so IEO framework, for example, or basically using kind of a template to create how might we questions, giving a template for different brainstormings, giving you a template for the business model canvas, or even giving you kind of ideas for looking into the entire roadmap, that you have a roadmap later on for implementing your solutions. So actually all these templates are part of the book. And on the 4 pages, these things are really explained, why you're using them, how to use them, and also like out of the global design thinking community expert tips, what they really do to make it happen, how they engage with the teams and how to bring it alive,
Yeah. So on the screen right now is the problem statement. Now this is the design principles.
Yes, it's also a quite nice template, and I think it's also kind of needed, because I really love to work with design principles, because this gives like all the design teams a good guidance over the entire process, And here again, first gathering, do like a brainstorming about the different principles you like to apply. Then you have like a pyramid, and you're looking into what is really specific for the design challenge, the problem we like to work on. And on the buttons, more like general principles. And then basically you do kind of a collection of the 8 or 9, whatever you like to have, design principles applying this project. And then basically what I do, I usually create like a big poster, put them on the wall, or send it in the virtual space now to all the participants, that everyone always has a reference point, going back saying, these are the design principles for our project, this gives us guidance in the process, and know a little bit about the principles. You can always say, we had this reference point, this was how we decided for the next step, because this was agreed within the group and written down our principles.
Yeah. Can you maybe help us a little bit? What is design principles in definition?
Well, our design principle could be really depending on the project, but for example, design principle could be that we design only something for a specific region, saying, we do something for the market in Malaysia, or we're doing just something for Southeast Asia, or we're just doing something, or we do something globally, and it could be also kind of a principle with regard to functionality, saying, there might be one core function we really like to incorporate in our new solution, or it might be also one experience, and this could be everything, as you say, this is kind of some frame, you as a designer and your teams can work in. I know, design thinking gets crazy. I'm very happy about, really open up your mind. But if some things are already clear from the start, for example, a region, or just for a specific customer segment, then really you can state it here, and this really helps then the teams to have guidance over the entire design thinking lifecycle.
Right. Okay, that's good. That's a good explanation. In other words, it is like a frame and perimeter that you already know the scope of the particular user, for example. Is that what you say?
Can you say again?
Yeah, it is like a perimeter or a frame of a user that you want to work on.
For example,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Now I want to show one more template that you gave me, which is the MVP basic. Right.
Yeah, this is also something, everyone's talking about minimum viable products, and sometimes, you have to collect a lot of information, because the MVP usually comes a little bit later than the design thinking process. So you have your final prototype, and then you're in the process of writing down your specifications for the first MVP you really like to put into the market, and you test with your users. And again, this template helps a little bit really to put the core elements together. You get like information from the persona, you look into the top 3 problem and challenges you like to tackle, and of course the most important part within the MVP is the learn, measure, and build, or build, learn, and measure. And this really gives you the possibility to track all your learnings. And again, it's like gives you the structure, it has all the relevant questions ready to go. And so it helps your teams, if they're in the status of preparing, building, or really interacting then with the clients and the MVP, to have something at hand that can fill all these fields with information. And again, it's always the point about collecting, sharing with your teams, and deciding on the next steps. And you see, these 50 templates really covers the entire process from the design brief over the point of view to the final prototype, and even looking into the MVP or the part you like to implement something. And we have also quite nice template about the innovation funnel. Yeah. So we use like the methodologies from like problems, customer solution fit, etc., into the final solution, and you can track like all your projects basically within the template. So basically, everything needed, to run an innovation team is ready in templates and described to go for,
Right. I really like, which I on your MVP template. I mean, it is like all in one time, right? You have the persona, you have the roadmap, you have the customer journey use case, you have the challenges, you have the measure, the cost and schedule, the features. I think these are lovely. Thanks so much, Michael, for putting this for us to use. I think it's really
but
great.
Actually, please share all these templates, with everyone participating. And when you get the book, there's like QR links on every related to every tool, and then basically you can also download these things for free, and they're ready to print in A0. They're good quality for printing as well. And there are like 2 options. This kind of the basic version, we usually use, or there's the premium version, giving like really details about every field you have to fill in. So it's like a description in detail, what to do, how to do it, how long it takes, and this really helps then the teams to work like also on their own. You don't have to go there every minute and tell them what to do.
Right. Okay, you give me a special template. I'm going to show you it in a short while, which is retrospective sailboat. What is that?
Yeah, this is like one of the most important part in design thinking. Usually the design thinking process does not cover the part of reflection, and for me it's the reflection part's the most important one, because it's all about learnings, about aligning with your team, aligning with your project, aligning with the design challenge. And retrospective sailboat really gives you like 4 quadrants to see, and to reflect what is really kind of the goal of the project, what's the vision we're heading to, giving you ideas about, what kind of impact we have with our solution, but also look like into kind of the challenges we have. And this really, in a team setting, helps, to see what was right or wrong, over the last 1 week sprint or 2 week sprints you did. And basically, based on it, you can put like new ways of working together. You can adjust the design principles. You can having kind of new ways of collaborating with the team, because once you have put everything like on a big board again, it's much easier to discuss these things. And I'm using these kind of lessons learned, or like the sailboat metaphor here, after every sprint. It doesn't matter what I do, if a 1 week sprint or 2 week sprint in design thinking, I'm always reflecting with teams and learn out of it, because that's the only way, to improve the collaboration within the teams. And especially if you have like larger projects, I think it's quite important that everyone is on the same page how to go forward.
Yeah, good. I like the explanation. Now, I want to get back to our main topic on COVID, right? Can we use the retrospective sailboat for our business right now, in our situation right now?
Oh yes, I think for me the big when I use it now right now, my biggest learning is that design thinking is possible in the virtual space. And if you have been asking me like 1 year ago,
Yeah,
I would say I'd never do any kind of Zoom design thinking session,
exactly. I
because this
agree
is
with you.
actually not how it should be.
Yes.
And now I was forced to do so because
Yeah.
there were workshops planned, we had to get it done, and amazingly, it's working. We can also have this like in the virtual space, and it needs a different way of facilitating. It needs a different way of preparing. It needs a different ways how we apply warm-ups, for example. But in the end of the day, for like defining the problem statement, for exchanging insights, for putting point of views together, to do brainstorming, we can use it easily. I'm still struggling, in the phase of building physical prototypes. I have not figured out how we're going to do this in the virtual space properly. Of course, we can do it with digital solutions, etc. But this is a challenge. But again, for testing with clients, again, it's happening. I had interaction with clients doing these things, and it's possible. So this is kind of my reto looking back, what has changed over the last weeks, and last months being in this situation, and also a little bit kind of how we advertise what we do, because if you right now a facilitator for design thinking, usually everything is postponed. So I have a lot of friends of mine, they have like a little boutique in design thinking, and all the projects were postponed. And now it's really the time to help clients differently, saying, I help you to find the right tools to work and collaborate online. I help you to bring teams together in the virtual room. I help you to set up breakout sessions in digital space. So you can help them first, to solve the digital problem, and then basically say, okay, now everything is ready. Now we look into this, what we have already planned to solve, this kind of problem you have already identified, or maybe, out of the new situation, a new business opportunity, saying, have you thought about solving your delivery problem? Have you thought about as new customer needs in the future? And there's a lot of market opportunities, a lot of things, where people now struggling, and we as facilitators and design thinking experts, we can reach out and help them to ask the right questions, to have the right problem statement, and to really engage on a different level, helping to build up a different kind of relationship to work together in the future.
Right. I really like their thoughts. In other words, while maybe this is just a template, but the design thinking and facilitators, experts, and coaches could help the business owners reimagine this back. Use a template and educate them and help them, right? And the good thing is also, as the design thinking professionals, we force ourselves to reimagine the delivery service that we need to do, right? So that's the good part. Now I want to share with you the audience as well about the template that you give me, which is the agenda canvas. I'm showing you on the screen now.
Yes, this is actually something I was never aware about, because I running design thinking session for 15 years. So, but there was a need in the market of people saying, how do I plan like a 5-day, 2 days, 2 weeks design thinking session with my clients? And then basically we came up with also a very easy template. It's looking at the design challenge. You have a list of your participants. You look into all the admin you have to do, like room, catering, and of course, you also organize a little bit kind of the follow-up and the documentation of everything. So this is kind of a template you can also use now to collaborate and to work directly with your clients, saying, we do this together on the virtual space. We make like a kind of half-hour session to prepare the agenda together, and basically this template, you have all the right questions, to run later on the workshop. And when it comes to virtual agendas for design thinking sessions, the only thing I can really recommend, have more kind of breaks between, because 2 hours online, talking and having brainstorming and It's really tough, you know. I mean, usually after 1 hour, you already kind of need a little break, you know, to step out for a couple of minutes and coming back. It's not the same thing like being in front of a real whiteboard and working together.
Yeah.
So the digital part is much more intensive, you know. If you do like an 8 hour session design thinking, for me it's too much. You know, usually what I do maximum like really working 5 to 6 hours, you know, with plenty of breaks between. And then there's maybe a kind of parts that people reflect and do like brainwriting, coming back, you know, also kind of not sitting in front of the monitor, you know, not in front of the laptop. They might go then to the kitchen table at the moment, do a little exercise, you know, and then they're coming back in front of the monitor. So in the virtual space, you know, you need more breaks, you know, and don't expect that people can stand 8 or 10 hours in front of a monitor. Otherwise, you know, it's not really fun anymore. You know, you're getting really kind of exhausted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. I totally agree with you. In fact, my current session as well is between 5 to 6 hours, or mostly about 4 to 5 hours. And I can imagine after 1 hour we have a more of a cut short break. And then some people may not have the laptop or internet connection that's really well, or mobile is really well, and some they're working from home. No, they have kids, they have space issues and all that. I totally agree with you. Yeah. So now I want to ask you post-COVID question. After the COVID, God willing, touch wood, we hope the COVID will be over soon. Do you see post-COVID situation? Is it still too late to adopt design thinking as part of their transformation? What do you think?
No, I don't think. No, it's exactly the right time, you know, because I think every time change is happening, you know, there's
Yeah.
opportunity for new market
Yeah.
opportunities, you know.
Hold on. You know
And
why I
now,
asked you know why I asked that? It's normal during the SARS financial situation, and human is like that. Whenever we face problem, we will ask we tell ourselves, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, right? Then the problem is over. Oh, forget about it. It won't happen again, right? So they take their time again, go back to their old self. They don't take any action. Now, that's why I asked you the question, post-COVID, do you foresee things going to change? Is it too late to adopt design thinking or any sort of innovation tool to transform their business?
no, I think we will continue to transform, you know, and I think even in the future, you know, we will see new technologies coming along, changing how we interact and what's coming along, you know. I think it's even more and more faster than ever before, you know, because I think now people are having kind of the basics, you know, and the corporates, you know, have a good understanding about what is needed because we are forced to look into this topic, and now they're really ready to do more, you know. And I think the transformation really starts now. How the new ways of working will be applied, you know. We will look in physical internal postal services, you know, bringing like physical letters from A to B. All companies, you know, and now they're forced to scan everything and make it digital. And okay, this is something we can't go back, because once we have started to have everything digital, all the incoming letters and postal things and everything, we were actually bringing in physical from one party to the next one. It's not needed anymore. So a lot of things will be changing, and also behavior change as well. So in this combination, you know, I think it will accelerate, and it will be even more transformational than ever before.
Well, can you give us some of the change that you foresee might happen post-COVID in terms of organization looking at their innovation program? Your thoughts. Now you are in your what you call work setup. What are the things that you guys foresee in Deloitte?
Yeah, I think there are two things. You know, first of all, there will be on one side a lot of innovation about cost cutting and restructuring, because companies also suffering now, and there will be an economic downturn over the next weeks, months, maybe in the entire year. You know, there will be one side about being creative, about looking into the cost side. You know, on the other hand, I think the really innovative companies, they investigate now the new customer needs. You know, they're adapting to the new situation, and they're coming up with like new offerings. And if they have time now, you know, to professionalize, what they already started to experiment with, they will be really good prepared then for the future. And it's always a mix, you have to streamline, and on the other side, you have to invest a little bit to look into new market opportunities. I think now is really the right time to do like both. And then we will also see, the successful companies and not so successful companies, because the successful companies will really now be active and applying into this kind of change, with new solutions, and at the same time looking into the cost side. And no one knows how the future will look like, but I think, we might get like really kind of coming back of a strong economy. It might not be as strong as before, because we were already looking into kind of a downturn from the past into the now, saying, it will come anyway. But I think it's recovering, and but there will be companies being not around anymore because they didn't adapt, and there will be companies that will be even stronger because they were doing the right things at the right time, and the right time is right now.
Right, I like that part. The right time is right now. All right, we are approaching 9 p.m. in Malaysia time, so we are out of time. Parting words, Dr. Lewrick.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm happy to link with you on LinkedIn. Reach out. Bye-bye.
Right. So please get the book from Dr. Lewrick, the Design Thinking Toolbook. I'm going to share the link to get to the templates. And where can we get the book, Doctor?
Fun?
Where can we get the book? Order your book, the Toolbook.
Oh, the book actually should be at Amazon. Amazon should have books, but I don't know how this works at the moment with the delivery, because
I get mine from Amazon. I get mine from Amazon.
Amazon has changed everything to ebooks, and I really recommend you can have the ebook, but the physical book is probably the better experience.
Right, definitely. I agree with you. Right. Okay. Thank you so much once again. Big hand to Dr. Lewrick.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay sane, keep in touch. Again, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Lewrick. That's it. I hope you enjoy the session, and I'm going to share with you the link later on in the comment. And for you, if you have any other questions, do let me know. We're happy to reach out. We're happy to respond to you and look into our design thinking program as well. See you again. Bye. Good night.